What's up, guys? Welcome to part 2 of my Getting Started with React series. And in this part, we're going to talk about kind of how to connect JavaScript with HTML in React. Or, my bad, not HTML, JSX. So the first thing I really want to do is kind of break down how a React component works again. So there's two types of components. There's a functional component like we have right here, and there's also a class-based component. So every React component starts off with you importing React from React, and then you set up your main function for your component. So in this case, we have the app component. So we'll write function and then app. And it's a pretty standard convention to have your first letter like uppercase. So we have app here. So it's uppercase A, app. And then another common convention is having this like name be the same as the name of the file. And in terms of files, you can have two types of files. You can have .js files, or you can have .jsx files. It's really up to you, either work. A lot of people like to have JSX files for like specifically when it's React code, and sometimes if it's just JavaScript, they'll leave it as JS. It's whatever you want. So then after that, every function has two parts in React, or sorry, every component. The first part is where your JavaScript logic goes, which is right here before the return statement. And then inside the return statement is where all of our JSX goes. That's where you can see the two H1s and the div. Okay, so let's get started. The first important thing to really note is inside of your return statement, you can't have HTML elements that kind of, or sorry, JSX elements that are kind of on the same level. Like there has to be one div element or like one parent element that contains everything else inside the return. So if we were to run this really quickly, let me just start it up. So for me it's npm start. If you're using yarn, it might be yarn start for you, so whatever works. Oh, there we go. And let's just get that started up. It should start up over here. Sorry about the wait, it's being a little slow for some reason. But yeah, anyways, while that's loading, basically my point is you can't have like elements, JSX elements that are at the same level that are like siblings. So like we have this div at the very base level, right? It's the parent component for these two H1s. Now we can't have like another div here because in React you kind of have to have one parent like component in your return statements for your components. So like even if I wanted to, I couldn't even have an H1 outside of this div. This div, everything has to be inside of it. So here we go, it's loading up right now, and we'll get an error probably. Let's just let it load. Another thing actually to note is that if you like, I know a lot of people try to have multiple components and stack them differently. That also could cause problems. But you know, we'll talk about that later on when we talk about components specifically. So here you can see in my terminal I'm getting the error adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. So you know, it has to be one parent, you know, kind of element that wraps over everything. And if we go in the browser, we'll see the same error. So yeah. So that's kind of like rule number one, I say, of JSX when it comes to components. The next thing I really wanted to go over was kind of how, like, you know, you can connect React and JavaScript, and really like JSX and JavaScript, and I really want to show you guys kind of like why, you know, people love React. So the first thing to really go over is variables. Variables are used from time to time in React. Mostly we use something called state, which is something I'll go over in a later video. But let's say we have a variable. We'll call it greeting, const greeting, and we'll set it equal to just hello. By the way, one more thing, I probably already went over this in the first video, but I do not use semicolons in my JavaScript code. If you want to, feel free to do so, but it's just a personal preference for me. Anyways, so we have this here, and let's say we only want to keep one h1 inside of our div. And let's say we want to render out this greeting onto the page. What we can do is actually place it inside of the h1. And so you can place any type of JavaScript inside of a JSX element. All you need to do is wrap it in curly brackets, and then you can put whatever you want. So we'll put in the variable greeting. And now if we go over to the page and reload this, you'll see hello pops up. So this works with everything. So let's say you want to have like a ternary operator, you can just pop in the brackets, the curly brackets in here, and then you can write your JavaScript code. You can even have an if-else embedded in your JSX. There's a lot. You can find function. That's kind of like one of, in my opinion, like the greatest things about React. Like JavaScript is so much easier to put in to your JSX/HTML code. So yeah, that's definitely one of the greatest things. So if we were to take this a step further, we can create a function. We'll call it logger, and we'll just try to use this to console.log something. So I don't know, we can just console.log I'm here maybe. So there we go, I'm here. And oh, sorry, 1 second. Oh yeah, the apostrophes. So we'll just make these double quotes to fix that. Okay, there we go. So now what we can do, let me fix that indentation. Now what we can do is basically add this function into our code. So let's say I just want to keep it somewhere in my div, like I can just put it in here. Oh, sorry, it wouldn't go in like that. It would go in with the curly braces because it's JavaScript. And then we would call the function, as usual. And now if we go over into our app, reload this, and started to inspect the page, we'll see that we got that console.log of I'm here. Let's open that up. And there you go. It's right. Nope, I don't know what's going on. It's right there. So, if you want to take a step further and you kind of wanted to play around with like functions returning certain things, another thing you could do is if you return something in a function, it should pop up in that h1 if the function is being called inside the h1. So we can make this like an addition function, I guess, with number 1 and number 2. And then, we'll have a return statement and return the sum. It goes to return num1 plus num2. And so now we'll take this function, and we'll pop it inside of our h1. So if I am right about this, what it'll do is it'll just return the results. So we'll pop in 1 and 4. And let's try this out now. There we go, 5. Ignore this, it's not a big deal, it's just because I didn't reload the page. There we go. So 5. So React, this should really show you how powerful React can become, and how you can use it. So the next thing that I really wanted to go over with you guys was how buttons work in React. I feel like they really can help with your understanding. So specifically I want to go over how like events happen in buttons. So we'll just get rid of our h1 here, and we'll just put down a button. Okay, and now we'll change this function up. It's kind of like a standard, like not a standard, but a lot of people like to kind of name their functions that kind of deal with buttons handle click. So, oh sorry, I didn't even explain this. Okay, so the way buttons work is you kind of have your button with your opening and closing tag. You can have whatever you want inside, just like HTML. We can write click to log. Maybe we can have like a logger function, so click to log. And now what we can do is we can have an event. So in React there are synthetic events, and basically what these do this is the React docs, by the way, is they trigger when you do certain actions. So basically, if we come down here to the keyboard events, if you do any of those things, you can put them inside of like buttons and stuff, or inside of different actions, and then have them like, kind of happen. That might sound a little weird. Let me try to explain a little better. Mouse events. This is a good one. So, for example, there is an onClick event here. The way this works is if I have my JavaScript, my JSX right here, and I have a button element, I can add this onClick property, or any of these properties, well, not any of them, but a couple of them, to my button. So I can just put an onClick, and I can set it equal to a pair of curly braces. And then in here, I can write a JavaScript function. So I can either write, one of those nameless inline functions, the fat arrow ones, or what I can do instead is I can just put in the name of a function that I already have up here in my JavaScript. So for example, let's say when this button clicks, on click, I want this button in my code, I want it to, fire this function. Excuse my spelling. So yeah, I want you to fire this function when I click on this button. So now we come up here, and let's say I put in something like console.log, button was clicked. So now if we take a look at this, every time I click this button, it's going to console.log button was clicked to the console. So let's give this a shot really quickly. Ignore that, it's just because, I have to reload the page after writing the code. So I'll click to log, and there we go, button is clicked. And we can do it more and more, and you can see it's just increasing number-wise. So this is something that's really useful, especially like this is how we handle kind of like forms and stuff in React, logins and everything. And honestly, like overall, events are a really big part of React as well. There's a lot of really interesting ones here, like on double click, on mouse over, mouse leave, on drop. There's like a bunch of stuff to go through here. But yeah, I definitely take a look at these. Yeah, so like even if you want to try it on double click, I can show you guys that one too. All we would do is just change this to on double click, and then when we went over to the element and we double clicked it, just logging out the button was clicked. So yeah, that's kind of how events work in React. Also, you can tag on as many of these events you want onto one property. I usually don't do that, but you can, if you want to have like one action for a single click and one action for a double click, you can definitely do that. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I plan on talking about props and kind of how you can connect different components in the next video. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more. And also let me know in the comments if there's something you had trouble with or if there's something you need help with. And yeah, if you have any suggestions, also leave them in the comments, and yeah, I'd love to hear them. So that'll be all, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.